The massive viewing screen on the Alliance battleship showed another world burning. Captain Do-Young Park stood quietly, his hands folded behind his back. As a Korean Space Force observer, he had watched 17 such battles in the past month alone. Each one ended the same way, with death and destruction on both sides. Captain Park, your thoughts? Admiral Vix of the Alliance asked, his gray skin looking even paler under the red emergency lights. The Dominion is adapting to your tactics again, Do-Young said simply. He pointed at the screen. See how their ships moved in that spiral pattern? That's new. They're learning. The year was 2275, and the Great Galactic War had been raging for 50 years. The Alliance, a group of 200 alien species, fought against the Dominion Empire. Neither side could win. Neither side would give up. Do-Young walked to the tactical display, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The display showed thousands of ships moving like angry bees around the burning planet. He had seen enough wars in Earth's history to know what this meant. This was a war of destruction, the kind that could end all civilization. Admiral, he said, how many worlds have been lost? The alien admiral's shoulders dropped. 3,422 inhabited planets. Gone. Burned. Or worse. He turned to Do-Young. That's why we're considering asking Earth for help. Do-Young raised an eyebrow, but kept his face calm. This was interesting news. Earth had been considered too primitive by the Alliance for years. They only allowed a few human observers like him because of political agreements. Earth has no fleet, he said carefully. No space weapons. This wasn't exactly true, but it was what the Alliance believed. A young Alliance officer rushed into the command room. Admiral, the Dominion is targeting the civilian ships. On the screen, red beams of light cut through space. Passenger ships carrying refugees exploded one after another. Do-Young counted 20 ships destroyed in less than a minute. Thousands of lives gone in seconds. The Alliance ships tried to fight back. Their blue energy weapons looked beautiful, but did little damage to the Dominion's new shields. Do-Young noticed how the enemy ships moved in perfect formation, like a dance of death. Send in the Third Fleet, the Admiral ordered. Sir, Do-Young spoke up. May I send a message to Earth Command? The Admiral looked surprised but nodded. Do-Young walked to a private communication station and typed quickly. Earth Command. FROM. Captain Park. Stay A2S. Watching Third Battle of PROXXIM. ASSESSM ENT. Alliance COZing. Dominion Advancing. REQUEST. Actige PRO Togsakewell Thunder. NDMESSAG. He knew what would happen next. Earth had been preparing for this moment for 100 years. Since the first alien ship crashed in Roswell, America had been building its secret space fleet. Korea and other allies had joined later, adding their own technology and warriors. The Alliance didn't know about the massive underground shipyards on the moon's dark side. They didn't know about the 1,000 carriers hidden in the asteroid belt. They didn't know that Earth had copied and improved both Alliance and Dominion technology. Do-Young watched another planet die and thought about the hidden fleets. Soon, very soon, the Dominion would learn why humans, especially Americans, had such a reputation for turning the tide of wars. He looked at his watch. Earth Command would get his message in 10 minutes. In 20 minutes, the President would give the order. In 30 minutes, the first American space carriers would power up their engines. The long war was about to change. Admiral Vix sighed heavily beside him. Sometimes I wonder if this war will ever end. Do-Young allowed himself a small smile. Admiral, he said, I think you'll find that endings can come from unexpected places. Outside the ship's windows, the stars shone coldly in the darkness. Somewhere out there, humanity's fleet waited. The real war was about to begin. 3 days after the battle, Do-Young stood in a large underground room on the moon. Around him, the most powerful people from Earth waited. American generals sat next to Korean admirals. European space commanders talked quietly with Asian fleet officers. All of them watched the huge screen showing the Alliance Council meeting. "You say Earth can help?" an Alliance leader asked. His blue tentacles moved with doubt. "Your people barely have space travel." Do Young smiled. He pressed a button on his tablet. The room's lights dimmed, and a new image appeared on the screen. The Alliance Council gasped. The image showed the dark side of the moon, but not how the Alliance knew it. The surface opened like a giant door, and from inside, warships rose into space. Not just any warships. These were bigger than anything the Alliance had. Each ship carried the American flag, but also showed flags of Korea and other Earth nations. What is this?" another council member asked. "This," Du Young said calmly, "is the first Earth fleet. We have 10 more like it." Dr. Jae-yun Kim stepped forward. She was small, but her voice was strong. "We've been preparing for war since our first contact with alien life. While you thought we were primitive, we studied both Alliance and Dominion technology. We made it better." She touched her own tablet. A new video played, showing Earth ships testing weapons. The Council watched as Earth vessels fired weapons that cut through Dominion-level shields like paper. "Impossible," an Alliance general said. "Those shields are the strongest in the galaxy." "We're the strongest?" Hae-jin Lee spoke up from his corner. The young lieutenant had helped design Earth's targeting systems. "We found their weakness. Alliance weapons hit the shields straight on. Ours hit from multiple angles at once. Simple geometry." Admiral Thompson of the American Space Force stood up. He was an older man with gray hair and a face that showed years of planning. "Earth's nations united their space forces in secret. We have 3,000 ships ready. We have weapons you've never seen. We have soldiers trained for space combat since childhood." The council chamber was silent. Du Young could see them thinking, calculating. Earth had hidden its true power for decades. Now they were offering help. But at what price? Why? A council member finally asked. "Why hide this power?" "Because," Du Young explained, "we needed to be sure. Sure about the Alliance. Sure about the Dominion. Sure about who we could trust." He paused. "We've watched this war for 50 years. We've seen the Dominion destroy worlds. We've decided it's time to step in." Dr. Jae-yun touched her tablet again. This time, the screen showed Earth's newest weapon, a shield system that didn't just block attacks, but sent the energy back at the attacker. "We call it the mirror shield," she said. "It's just one of our developments. We have more." The council members talked among themselves. Du Young waited. He knew what they were thinking. Earth had tricked them, yes, but Earth was also offering them victory. Admiral Thompson stepped forward again. "We're ready to join the war, but we have conditions. First, full technology sharing between Earth and the Alliance. Second, Earth gets an equal voice in military planning. Third, we do this our way." "Your way?" someone asked. "The American way," Thompson said with a slight smile. "We don't just fight wars. We win them." Do Young watched the council's reactions. Some looked angry at being deceived. Others looked relieved at finding powerful allies. All of them looked impressed. "How soon can your ships deploy?" the council leader asked. Thompson looked at his watch. "Our carriers are already moving into position. We can begin operations in 24 hours. The council chamber erupted in excited talk. Du Young exchanged looks with Jae-yun and Hae-jin. Phase 1 was complete. Earth was joining the war. Now they would show the galaxy how humans really fought. The massive hangar of the U.S. Enterprise X buzzed with activity. Du Young watched as Alliance representatives walked among Earth's fighters and bombers. Their eyes were wide with wonder. These weren't the simple ships they had expected from Earth. These were machines built for war. "Would you like to see how our targeting systems work?" Hae-jin asked the group. He stood next to Earth's newest fighter, the Hawk 7. His hand rested on the smooth black metal of the ship. "We can do a live demonstration." The Alliance military advisors nodded eagerly. He Jin smiled and climbed into the cockpit. Du Young led the group to the observation deck. Through the large windows, they could see the practice range, a field of asteroids fitted with Dominion-grade shields. "Begin demonstration," Du Young ordered. He Jin's fighter lifted off smoothly. It moved like a dancer through space, approaching the target zone. The Alliance officers watched their sensors, which showed the fighter's weapons were barely strong enough to harm a small shuttle. "Those weapons seem very weak," one advisor said with disappointment. Du Young said nothing. He just watched. He Jin's voice came over the speaker. "Targeting multiple points. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Small dots of light shot from the fighter. They looked harmless. But then something strange happened. Each shot split into 5 smaller ones. Then each of those split again. Suddenly, hundreds of tiny energy bolts hit the asteroid's shield at exactly the same moment, all at different angles. The shield, which could stop Alliance battleship weapons, shattered instantly. The asteroid behind it exploded into dust. The room was silent. "How?" an Alliance admiral finally asked. Taiwan stepped forward from his quiet corner. The intelligence officer had been watching the Alliance visitors' reactions carefully. "Simple physics," he said. "Your weapons hit shields with brute force. Ours find the mathematical sweet spots. When you hit a shield in the right places at the right time, it takes very little power to break it. We learned this from studying Earth glass." He Jin added as he landed his fighter. "Hit it in one spot, it's strong. Hit it in many spots at once, it breaks easily." The Alliance officers talked excitedly among themselves, but Du Young noticed Taiwan's face grow serious. The intelligence officer motioned him to a private corner. "We just got word from our spies," Taiwan whispered. "The Dominion is planning something big. They've pulled ships from 3 sectors. They're gathering them somewhere, but we don't know where." Du Young nodded slowly. "They must know about Earth joining the war. They're preparing a countermove." "There's more," Taiwan said. "Our deep cover agent sent this." He showed Du Young a datapad. On it was a single image, a massive Dominion weapon under construction. "What is it?" "We think it's a planet killer, bigger than anything they've used before. If they finish building it." Du Young understood. The Dominion was desperate. Earth's entry into the war had scared them. Now they were building something that could destroy entire worlds with one shot. "How long until it's ready?" he asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Du Young walked back to the group. He Jin was showing them the fighter's computer system. The Alliance officers were impressed, but Du Young knew they didn't have time for long demonstrations anymore. "Admiral," he said to the Alliance leader, "we need to speed things up. Earth's forces must deploy now." "But the technology exchange can happen as we fight," Du Young finished. "The Dominion isn't waiting. Neither should we." The Admiral looked at him carefully, then at the destroyed asteroid field. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. When can your forces be ready?" Du Young allowed himself a small smile. "We've been ready for 50 years. Just give the word." Above them, through the hangar's massive doors, they could see Earth's fleet assembling. Hundreds of ships, built in secret, now moving into attack formation. The real war was about to begin. And this time, humanity would be leading the charge. "All carriers, launch fighters." Du Young ordered from the bridge of the Enterprise X around him. The crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. Through the main window, he watched as swarms of fighters poured out of Earth's massive carriers. The Dominion fleet ahead of them had never seen anything like this before. They were used to big ships fighting big ships. But now they faced hundreds of small, fast fighters coming at them from all directions. "First wave ready," He Jin reported from his tactical station. "Target lock confirmed on 20 Dominion cruisers." Du Young nodded. "Begin the attack. Show them how Earth fights." The fighters moved in perfect formation. They had practiced this thousands of times. Each group of 5 fighters targeted one enemy ship. The Dominion vessels fired their heavy weapons, but the Earth fighters were too quick, too small to hit. "Look at their formation," an Alliance observer said with wonder. "They move like water." "Like a swarm of angry bees," Du-Yum corrected with a smile. Fighter Group 1. Execute Attack Pattern Delta. The first wave of fighters split into smaller groups. They flew circles around the Dominion ships, firing their special weapons. Just like in the demonstration, each shot split into many smaller ones. The Dominion shields flickered and died. "Second wave, begin your attack run," He-Jin called out. The bombers moved in, protected by the fighters. They carried Earth's newest weapons, missiles that could think for themselves. The Dominion ships tried to retreat, but they were too slow. The missiles followed them, dodging their defensive fire. Explosions lit up space like new stars being born. "Sir," Todd 1 called from his station. "Enemy reinforcements coming in. 3 heavy battleships." Do-Young smiled. He had been waiting for this. Launch the Thunderbirds. From the carrier's special hangar, 3 large fighters emerged. They were Earth's secret weapon, ships that could change their shape. As everyone watched, the Thunderbirds transformed from fighters into small battleships. "What kind of technology is this?" the Alliance observer gasped. "American innovation," Du-Young said proudly. "Inspired by an old Earth entertainment show. Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places." The Thunderbirds engaged the Dominion battleships. They moved like dancers, shifting between fighter and battleship mode. When the enemy fired their big guns, the Thunderbirds became small fighters. When they needed heavy weapons, they transformed into battleships. "Enemy fleet is breaking formation," He-Jin reported. "They're running." But Du-Young saw something in the enemy's retreat pattern. He had studied Earth's military history carefully. "It's a trap," he said quickly. "They want us to follow them. All ships, hold position." Just as he said this, a massive Dominion dreadnought appeared from behind a moon. It was twice the size of any ship they had seen before. "New contact," Todd 1 shouted. "Energy readings are off the charts." The dreadnought fired its main weapon. A beam of light brighter than a sun shot toward Earth's fleet. Everyone held their breath. But Du-Young was ready. "Activate mirror shields." Dr. Jai-Yun's invention sprang to life. The shield caught the enemy beam and sent it right back. The massive Dominion ship took its own shot in the face. Its front section melted like ice in summer. "All fighters, finish it off," Du-Young ordered. "Show them why you don't ambush Americans." The fighters swarmed around the wounded dreadnought. In minutes, the pride of the Dominion fleet was nothing but floating metal. When it was over, He-Jin checked his display. 47 enemy ships destroyed. 0 Earth casualties. The Alliance observer shook his head in amazement. "In all my years of war, I've never seen anything like this." Do-Young looked at the stars ahead. The Dominion hasn't seen anything yet. This was just the first battle. He turned to his crew. "Send word to Earth. Tell them the carrier tactics work perfectly. It's time for Phase 2. The war was changing, and humanity was teaching the galaxy a lesson about innovation they would never forget. Dr. Jai-Yun Kim stood in her lab aboard the Enterprise X, watching the data scroll across her screens. The battle for Antares was about to begin, and this time, the Dominion had brought their biggest fleet yet. "Shield systems at full power," she reported to Du-Young over the comm. "The new upgrades are ready for testing." "Good," Du-Young replied, "because we're going to need them." The Dominion has brought 500 ships. Jai-Yun walked to the main window of her lab. She could see the enemy fleet. Their ships looked like angry red stars against the black of space. The Dominion had learned from their last defeat. This time, they had changed their ships to better fight Earth's fighters. "He-Jin," she called to the tactical officer. "Are you seeing these new enemy shields?" "Yes," he answered. "They've copied some of our ideas. Their shields now have multiple layers. Jai-Yun smiled. She had expected this. The Dominion was smart, but she was smarter. "Activate Protocol Rainbow," she said. Across the Earth fleet, new shield systems came online. Jai-Yun had created them after studying rainbows on Earth. Just like rainbows split light into colors, these shields could split enemy weapons into harmless energy. The battle began. The Dominion fired first, sending thousands of energy bolts at the Earth fleet. But when their shots hit Jai-Yun's new shields, something beautiful happened. Each shot turned into a rainbow of light, then disappeared. Shields holding at 100%. Ho-Jin reported excitedly. "Their weapons aren't doing any damage." Do-Young's voice came over the comm. "Now it's our turn. All carriers, launch fighters. Show them what American firepower looks like." The space around them filled with Earth fighters. But the Dominion wasn't worried. They had seen fighters before. What they didn't know was that Ho-Jin had a surprise for them. "Activating new missile guidance systems," Ho-Jin announced. "These babies can think for themselves." The fighters launched their missiles. Instead of flying straight at the enemy, the missiles zigzagged and danced through space. When the Dominion shot at them, the missiles dodged like they were alive. Some even worked together, with smaller missiles protecting bigger ones. "Sir," Taiwan called from his station. "Enemy fleet is trying to surround us." Jai-Yun watched as the Dominion ships moved to circle the Earth fleet. It was a good strategy, but she had planned for this too. "Captain," she said to Do-Young, "permission to activate the mirror web." "Do it," he ordered. Jai-Yun pressed a button on her console. Small satellites that her team had hidden around the battlefield came to life. They created a web of energy between them. When the Dominion ships fired, their shots bounced off the web, hitting their own ships instead. "Enemy shields are failing," Ho-Jin reported with excitement. "They can't handle their own weapons." The battle turned into chaos for the Dominion. Their own shots kept hitting them. Earth's missiles couldn't be stopped, and their weapons couldn't get through the rainbow shields. For the first time in the war, the mighty Dominion fleet looked helpless. "All ships, press the attack," Do-Young ordered. "Don't let them escape this time." Earth's fighters swarmed through the enemy fleet like angry hornets. The Thunderbird ships changed shape faster than ever, confusing the enemy. Alliance ships, now equipped with Earth technology, joined the attack. Within an hour, it was over. The largest Dominion fleet ever assembled had been destroyed. The few ships that survived ran away, their mighty weapons useless against Earth's shields. "Battle report," Do-Young asked. 387 enemy ships destroyed," Taiwan answered. 98 captured. The rest escaped. Earth casualties, 0. Jai-Yun looked at her screens again. The shield data was perfect. Her rainbow theory had worked even better than she had hoped. "Send word to Earth Command," Do-Young ordered. "Tell them Antares is secure. And tell them." He paused, looking at his Korean-American crew with pride. "Tell them that humanity just changed the course of this war. The Battle of Antares would be remembered as the day everything changed. The day the galaxy learned that Earth's science and American military power were forces that could not be stopped." 2 months after the Battle of Antares, Do-Young stood in front of a massive star map. Red dots showed Dominion-controlled worlds. Blue dots showed Alliance space. Green dots marked Earth's victories. There were a lot of green dots now. "Admiral Park," a young officer said, using his new rank. The promotion had come after Antares. "The Alliance fleet is ready for training." Do-Young nodded. The Alliance had finally admitted that they needed to learn Earth's way of fighting. Now, American and Korean officers were teaching alien crews how to fight like humans. Ho-Jin was leading the weapons training on a nearby planet. Through the window, Do-Young could see hundreds of Alliance fighters practicing Earth's attack patterns. They weren't as smooth as human pilots yet, but they were learning. "Sir," Taiwan called from his station, "we just got new intelligence. You need to see this." The intelligence officer put a video on the main screen. It showed Dominion ships attacking their own bases, destroying them before running away. They're burning their own worlds, Todd 1 explained. They don't want us to capture their technology. Do Young studied the video carefully. No, he said after a moment. Look at their flight paths. They're not running away randomly. They're following a pattern. He walked to the star map and drew lines between the destroyed bases. The lines made a shape like an arrow, pointing to one sector of space. They're gathering somewhere, he said, probably planning one last big attack. Should we wait for them to come to us? Another officer asked. Do Young smiled. That's what they expect. But we're going to surprise them again. He pressed a button on his comm. Dr. Kim, is the new tracking system ready? Ready and better than ever. Jai Yun's voice came back. My team added something special. We can now track ships through hyperspace. This was big news. No one had ever been able to follow ships through hyperspace before. The Dominion wouldn't expect it. He Jin, Du Young called. Get your pilots back to the ships. Taiwan, send our new coordinates to the Alliance fleet. It's time to take the fight to them. The next day, the largest fleet ever assembled in the galaxy prepared to jump. Earth ships led the formation, with Alliance ships following in the new patterns they had learned. All ships report ready, He Jin announced from his station. Begin Operation Thunderstrike, Du Young ordered. The fleet jumped into hyperspace. Thanks to Jai Yun's new system, they could see the Dominion ships ahead of them like glowing trails in the darkness. They were following these trails right to the enemy's secret base. When they came out of hyperspace, the Dominion was completely surprised. They had hidden their base inside a nebula, thinking no one could find them. They were wrong. All carriers, launch fighters, Du Young commanded. Alliance ships, take formation Delta. Show them what you've learned. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Alliance ships now moved like Earth ships, using human tactics. Their fighters flew in perfect formation with Earth fighters. When the Dominion tried their old tricks, they found themselves facing enemies who knew all their moves. Enemy fleet is breaking up, He Jin reported with pride. They didn't expect us to find them here. Sir, Todd 1 called out. We're detecting massive energy readings from the nebula. They're powering up some kind of super weapon. Do Young stayed calm. This was exactly what he had expected. Send in the Thunderbirds, target their power stations, and tell Dr. Kim to get ready with her rainbow shields. The real fight is about to begin. As he watched Earth and Alliance ships working together, striking deep into enemy territory, Du Young felt proud. The galaxy was learning that when humanity joined a fight, old rules didn't matter anymore. New tactics, new technology, and American determination were changing everything. The counterattack had begun, and this time, the Dominion wouldn't have anywhere to hide. The Dominion capital system was surrounded by 3 rings of warships. Behind these rings, massive space stations pointed their guns outward. This was where the enemy would make their final stand. They have over 2,000 ships. He Jin reported from his tactical station. His voice was quiet but not afraid. This is their entire remaining fleet. Do Young looked at the enemy formation through the Enterprise X's main window. The Dominion had learned from their defeats. Their ships were now arranged in a pattern that would make fighter attacks difficult. Dr. Kim, he called over the comm. Status of the fleet's shields. All ships ready, Jai Yun answered. Rainbow shields at full power. Mirror web satellites in position. The combined Earth Alliance fleet waited at the edge of the system. This would be the largest space battle in history. Everything they had learned, every new technology they had created, would be tested today. Message from Earth Command, Taiwan announced. They say, remember Pearl Harbor. Remember Antares. Show them what Americans do in a final battle. Do Young smiled. He pressed the fleet-wide comm button. All ships, this is Admiral Park. Today we end this war. The Dominion thinks their wall of ships will stop us. They're wrong. Today, we show them why you don't start fights with Earth. He nodded to Hejin. Begin the attack. Operation Rolling Thunder is now active. The first wave wasn't ships or fighters. It was Jai Yun's newest invention. Tiny robots that looked like space debris. They floated toward the enemy fleet, completely ignored. Swarm bots in position. Jai Yun reported. Activating now. Suddenly, the small robots came to life. They attached themselves to Dominion ships and started disrupting their shields. The enemy fired at them, but there were too many, and they were too small to hit. First line of defense is weakening, Hejin said. Shield strength down to 60%. Launch all fighters, Du Yun ordered. Thunderbirds, take the lead. Show them what American air power looks like. Space filled with Earth fighters. They flew in new formations that the Dominion had never seen before. The Thunderbirds led the charge, changing shapes so fast they looked like blurs on enemy scanners. The Dominion's first defense ring broke in 30 minutes. Their ships couldn't handle the combination of swarm bots and fighter attacks. The second ring lasted 40 minutes, but the third ring and the space stations would be the hardest. Enemy launching their reserve fleet, Taiwan warned. 500 more ships coming from behind their stations. Just where we want them, Du Young said calmly. Dr. Kim, activate the mirror web. The satellites hidden around the system created a web of energy. When the Dominion reserves fired their weapons, the shots bounced back. Their own super weapons destroyed their ships. Now, Hejin, Du Young ordered. Show them your new missiles. Hejin pressed a button with a fierce smile, launching Freedom Strike missiles. These weren't normal missiles. Each one carried 100 smaller missiles inside. When the Dominion shot them down, they split apart, releasing their cargo. The space around the enemy fleet filled with thousands of missiles, all flying in different patterns. The Dominion's final defense line exploded in a chain of bright lights. Their mighty space stations fell one by one. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but Earth fighters were everywhere. Enemy flagship detected, Taiwan reported. They're sending a signal. The main screen showed the Dominion Supreme Commander. He looked tired and beaten. He paused, as if the words hurt. We wish to discuss surrender terms. Do Young looked at his crew, Korean, American, and now Alliance officers all working together. They had done what seemed impossible. They had won. Tell them, he said, that we accept their surrender. The war is over. Cheers erupted across the fleet. After 50 years of fighting, after thousands of worlds burned, peace was finally coming. And it had come because Earth, led by American strength and innovation, had changed the way space warfare worked forever. 1 week after the Dominion's surrender, Du Young stood in the Great Hall of the Alliance Council. The room was packed with representatives from every species in the galaxy. They had come to witness history. The war is over, the Alliance president announced. His voice echoed through the hall. Thanks to Earth, particularly the American-led forces, peace has returned to our galaxy. Do Young watched as Hejin and Dr. Jai Yun brought forward the new peace treaty. The document was written on both paper and digital tablets. Earth had insisted on having a physical copy, just like in their own history. The Dominion's new leader stepped forward to sign first. His hands shook slightly. Just days ago, his empire had controlled half the galaxy. Now they would have to rebuild under Earth's watchful eyes. Earth's terms are fair, the Dominion leader said quietly. More fair than we would have been had we won. The terms were simple. The Dominion would give up their weapons of mass destruction. They would free all conquered worlds. And they would accept Earth's supervisors to make sure they followed the rules. Admiral Park, the Alliance president, called. Please step forward. Do Young walked to the center of the hall. He wore his formal uniform, showing both Korean and American flags. Around his neck hung the new Medal of Galactic Peace, the first one ever given. Earth has proven itself not just as a warrior, but as a leader, the president said. Therefore, we hereby create the combined Galactic Defense Force. Admiral Park will serve as its first Supreme Commander. The hall erupted in cheers. Even former enemy officers clapped. They had seen Earth's power firsthand, but they had also seen Earth's mercy. When planets surrendered, Earth brought food and medicine, not punishment. Taiwan, standing near the back of the hall, checked his tablet. "Sir," he called to Du Young. "The first reports from freed worlds are coming in. The people are celebrating in the streets." "Show them," Du Young said. The hall's main screen lit up with images from across the galaxy. On world after world, people danced and cheered. Many waved American flags alongside their own. Some held signs thanking Earth for their freedom. Dr. Jai Yun stepped forward next. "The technology exchange program is ready to begin," she announced. "Earth will share its innovations with all peaceful worlds. In return, we ask only for cooperation in building a better galaxy." This caused even more excitement. Everyone had seen how Earth's technology had changed the war. Now they would get to learn these secrets themselves. "But remember," He-Jin added, standing at the weapons control panel, "Earth keeps control of its military advances. Break the peace, and you'll face American carriers again." No one doubted his words. The memory of Earth's fighters swarming through space was still fresh in everyone's minds. Later that day, Du Young stood on the observation deck of the Enterprise X below him. The former Dominion capital world glowed like a blue jewel. "Message from Earth Command," an officer reported. "They're asking about your plans for the Defense Force." Du Young smiled. He had been thinking about this. The galaxy needed more than just peacekeepers. It needed teachers, builders, and healers. "Tell them I want to start a space academy," he said. "We'll teach everyone how Earth fights, not just the weapons and tactics, but the important things. Honor, mercy, the difference between winning a war and winning the peace." He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the first Earth exploration ships were already heading into unknown space. The galaxy was changing. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. "Sir," He-Jin called from behind him. "The Alliance fleet is requesting permission to learn our carrier operations." "Teach them," Du Young said. "Teach them everything. Because next time there's trouble in the galaxy, Earth won't fight alone. We'll all fight together." The war was over. Now the real work of building a lasting peace would begin, and Earth would lead the way, just as it had led the way to victory. 5 years after the war ended, the galaxy was a very different place. Du Young stood at the graduation ceremony of the first class of the Galactic Space Academy. The massive parade ground was filled with young officers from 100 different worlds. "Today, you become the guardians of peace," he told them. His voice carried across the field. "You have learned how Earth fights. More importantly, you have learned why we fight: to protect, not to destroy." Among the graduates were some of the best students he had ever seen. They had mastered Earth's carrier tactics, learned to use rainbow shields, and understood the importance of working together. "Message from the Science Division," an aide whispered to him. "Dr. Kim wants you to see something special." After the ceremony, Du Young visited Jai Yun's new Galactic Science Academy. The building was amazing, a combination of Earth and alien architecture. Inside, scientists from every species worked together. "Look at this," Jai Yun said excitedly, pointing to a screen. "We combined Earth's mirror shield technology with Alliance energy systems. The result is something completely new." The screen showed a ship using the new shields. Instead of just protecting the ship, the shields could now create safe zones for entire planets. No one would ever be able to burn worlds again. "That's not all," she added. He-Jin helped us develop something even better. In the testing area next door, He-Jin was showing a group of alien officers the newest fighters. These ships were built by all species working together, combining the best ideas from everyone. "We call it the Unity Fighter," He-Jin explained. "American engineering, Korean electronics, Alliance power systems, and even some Dominion stealth technology. It's the fastest, strongest fighter ever built. Do-young watched the test flight through the window. The new fighter moved like it was alive, performing moves that would have seemed impossible during the war. Supreme Commander Ta-won called as he entered the room. He now led the Galactic Intelligence Service. The last Dominion weapons factory has been converted to peaceful use. They're making medical equipment now. This was good news. The Dominion had kept their word about peace. Many of their best engineers now taught at the Academy, helping to build a better galaxy. Later that day, Do-young visited the new Galactic Command Center. The massive room had walls covered in screens showing every part of the galaxy. But these screens no longer showed battles. Instead, they showed trade routes, exploration missions, and rescue operations. Earth Exploration Fleet reports contact with a new civilization in the Outer Rim, an officer reported. They're sending first contact specialists now. Do-young smiled. This was what he had hoped for. Earth was leading the galaxy not through fear, but through friendship and knowledge. Sir, another officer called. The Dominion has requested permission to join the next humanitarian mission. They want to help colonies damaged by solar storms. Permission granted, Do-young said. Send some of our new Unity fighters as escorts. Let's show everyone how former enemies can work together. That evening, Do-young stood on his office balcony, looking at the stars. Below him, the capital city glowed with lights from a dozen different species. Earth flags flew alongside Alliance and even Dominion flags. He-jin joined him, holding a tablet. The new defense network is complete, he reported. Every peaceful world now has rainbow shield protection. No one will ever be able to start another galaxy-wide war. And if they try? Do-young asked. He-jin smiled. Then they'll face not just Earth, but the whole galaxy. We're all carriers now. Do-young nodded with satisfaction. This was humanity's greatest victory, not defeating an enemy, but turning enemies into friends. Earth had changed the galaxy not just through American military power, but through Korean and human wisdom about peace and cooperation. The stars seemed brighter now. Out there, Earth ships were exploring new worlds, meeting new species, and spreading hope instead of fear. The long war had ended, and a golden age of peace had begun. And it all started because humanity showed the galaxy a better way to fight, and a better way to live.